Triston Casas gave a positive injury update that could put him back with the Boston Red Sox in the very near future.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox Monday through Friday. And want to know the best part? It's free. So if it's free, you really have nothing to lose but to check it out. So might as well start your day off the right way with Locked On Red Sox. The Locked On Podcast Network is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Welcome to Locked On Red Sox. Happy Friday. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the week. I hope you have some lovely plans for the weekend. I know I'm very much looking forward to some quality time with family this weekend, and always important to take that time to see your family and other people that you may be close with. So hope you have a nice relaxing weekend, or if it's busy, hope it's at least enjoyable. And something that could make your weekend enjoyable is some news that Triston Casas gave, who has been on the injured list for the Red Sox and had a great rookie season last year. Certainly was in the mix for the Rookie of the Year conversation. So he was injured earlier on in the season, and at first things were looking very glim for him. Originally, he and the Red Sox organization were unsure about when he'd be able to play baseball again, if it would even be at all this season. But now he has a more concrete timetable for his plans of when to come back. The Red Sox open a 3-game series in Cincinnati on June 21st. And Triston Casas is confident now that he will be activated and be in Boston's lineup that day, which is very exciting because that's a lot sooner than I think a lot of people anticipated for him to be coming back. Now, why June 21st, you might ask? It seems like a very random date if you think about it. But that's actually the first day that Casas is eligible to return from the 60-day injured list. When you get placed on that list, you have to be out for a minimum of 60 days. So he feels like he can come back right on that first day. He said that's his goal. He doesn't know yet what the plans are in terms of a progression to start a rehab process or anything like that, but he doesn't anticipate needing many games. This is such a big development relative to the way the Red Sox and Casas were talking 3 weeks ago about his recovery from torn cartilage in his left rib cage. Definitely not a fun injury for him to be dealing with. Back then, at that point, neither the Red Sox or Casas were providing a roadmap because they honestly had no idea how his body would heal. Back in late April, he said, "I'm still in pain to breathe. My lungs are still hitting my midsection, which I'm still getting to like 75% capacity without pain." And now he's saying everything's been going well, making a lot of progress, starting my workouts, starting a running progression here soon in the next couple days. I should get the clearance to start throwing in 2 or 3 more days. I've already started lifting upper body. So a lot of things he's going to be starting to do over the next few days when it comes to picking up his baseball activity. But swinging is something that's going to come after and will likely be the last step for him. There's just a lot of rotation that requires, so that's kind of the last step of the rehab process. But unlike when he first sustained his injury, he has a lot of other stuff that can keep him occupied until he can swing. He's picking weights up, not at 100% right now or anything like that, but still having that movement and making his body do that work. He's just slowly easing back into it and starting to activate his core again to make himself stronger to be able to get back to where he wants to be. Doing planks on his knees, maybe in a push-up position. A lot of things you would do at the gym, Casas is doing to get himself back in shape to even return to baseball activity. He says he's ahead of schedule and likes the progress he's making. And it's very exciting for the Red Sox, too, because I truly don't believe it's a coincidence that the offense just hasn't been the same since he went down in terms of the lack of consistency to score a lot of runs in games and a lot of guys struggling to get that big hit. Casas is a key part of this Red Sox lineup. So that's very important for this team, is for him to come back and be healthy. He's feeling like he's fully involved in the struggles, basically acting like another hitting coach. He feels like he's in it with the guys in that locker room and feels like their failures are also his, even though this isn't his fault and his injury is not his fault. But he's giving everybody advice as they're going up there to swing the bat. So he has been able to provide some value still off the field when he's been injured, which has been fantastic. But the timing of the injury for him just could not have been worse. He was starting to get hot, even though the weather was not exactly getting hot at the time. Unlike his rookie year, he started cold and finished hot then. He was hoping for a full season of solid production this year because he did start off the season very well this year. He was looking back at numbers through April 20th of 2023. He had 8 total hits until then. And then leading up to April 20th this year, which was when he was placed on the IL, he had 19 hits and 6 home runs. So he had started off a lot stronger than last year. And it makes sense because last year was his rookie year. He was still trying to learn the ropes and ease into everything. And then going into this season, he just felt ready after the success he found last year. So he just wanted to really make an impact all season long. He was really starting to hit his stride, and then all of that had a damper put in it when he got injured. He's just trying to stay in baseball shape, essentially, but it'll be a step-by-step process for him. The positive is 100% that it's looking like he'll be able to come back for the second half of the season, which is fantastic news. I mean, the Red Sox really do need him. When he was placed on the IL, he had a 244 batting average, but he was lingering around 250 for the entirety of that couple week span before he got hurt. So he's a good hitter, and he's somebody that the Red Sox lineup could really use in it right now. And I love that he's been locked in the dugout. He's helping these guys out. He's staying fresh. He's trying to ease back into his baseball activities the right way and not feel like it's being rushed, but is also eager to get back out there. So hopefully that news of him coming back in mid-June, like he's saying, ends up staying that way and that he doesn't have any more setbacks. Because honestly, when his injury first came up, there were a lot of signs indicating to him potentially missing the rest of the season. So if he could come back, and especially with where the Red Sox are at right now, they're staying afloat, they're winning games, they're somewhere around 500 generally ever since he's gotten injured. They've been able to at least stay in the middle of their division. So imagine if he does return, what they can really do with him in this lineup and how he can impact their ability to win some more games. He's a very strong hitter, and it's a good sign based on the beginning of the season that he had, that he can come back and be a key asset to this lineup moving forward. I don't think he'll be somebody who digresses per se. He might have a little bit of a period where he has to adjust and might be a little bit rusty, just like anybody who typically comes off of an injury and hasn't played in a live game in a while. But I am confident that he'll be able to return and be better than ever. and this Red Sox lineup could absolutely really use him. So huge news from Triston Casas. And coming up, I'm going to be giving an update on another injured player, and you definitely won't want to miss that. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Today because I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It'll keep you caught up in all things going on in sports. As Triston Casas has given a very positive update as to his timeline for return for the Boston Red Sox, the timeline isn't so positive for Masataka Yoshida. He is expected to miss an extended period of time. He was placed on the injured list at the start of May due to a sprained left thumb, but after he underwent an MRI, it was reported that he would be receiving a second opinion on the injury, with surgery potentially on the table. So that ominous signal eventually gave way to a more positive update yesterday after Boston received a third-party opinion on the injury. So essentially, Alex Cora told reporters that Yoshida's injury would not require surgery. So that's a huge relief because that was definitely the most worrisome outcome because surgery would mean a lot more time that he'd be missing. So that's a very good sign. But even though the most worrisome outcome is now off the table, that still doesn't save him from an extended absence. Cora said that he does figure to return this season, but also noted that the Red Sox will see how he feels in a few weeks. There's no sign of him resuming baseball activities. Cora did say he won't be swinging the bat at all. So with even the most optimistic reading of that, basically it suggested that the earliest Yoshida could resume full baseball activities is early June. So it'll be safe to assume that he'll end up having missed at least 2 months with the injury when all is said and done, because even if he resumes baseball activities in early June, it's going to take a while for his body to get reacclimated and for him to be able to start playing again. So I'm really not expecting him to be back until likely July at the earliest, and that's if all goes well and he doesn't have any setbacks along the way. This truly, again, came at such an unfortunate time for both Yoshida and the Red Sox. Obviously, no time to get an injury is ideal. It would be nice if injuries just didn't happen in the game. But for Yoshida, it was particularly unfortunate because he did get off to a rough start this season with a batting average of .229, a .302 on base percentage, and a .271 slugging percentage in his first 53 trips to the plate, but he had begun to heat up in recent weeks. hitting .344 with a .417 batting average and .563 slugging in his final 10 games before being placed on the IL. If Yoshida was beginning to get into a groove at that point, it would have been such a relief for the Red Sox offense because this all started to happen right after they lost Casas. So it would have worked out really well for the Red Sox if those numbers Yoshida was putting up in those 10 games prior to going on the IL continued, because it would have been huge for an offense that, like I mentioned earlier, has been struggling to score runs as of late. So now they end up in a situation where they don't have Yoshida and Casas in the mix for at-bats. So now the Red Sox have to rely on Garrett Cooper and Dominic Smith. I mean, Cooper has just been absolutely abysmal at the plate, and so has Dom Smith. Smith has struggled to a 190 batting average, 227 on base percentage, and 238 slugging so far in his Red Sox tenure. In 26 trips to the plate since arriving in Boston, Garrett Cooper, 130 batting average, 231 on base percentage, and 174 slugging. It's been painfully bad watching both of them play first base and try to make contact with the ball and put it in play and provide some value offensively. I no longer rely on either of them to do that ever, but the Red Sox are in a tough spot because it's kind of funny. This is the first time in a long time where I've seen Red Sox Twitter say they want Bobby Dahlbeck back, because with all of the complaining people do about Dahlbeck, you know the current situation is bad when people are begging for him to return. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, clearly things aren't working for him, and the Red Sox are not doing him justice. But also, first base prospect Nico Cabatis is hitting well at the AAA level this season and could be a potential solution. But the 25-year-old is not yet on the club's 40-man roster, and he also sports an unsustainable 375 BABIP. That's basically good luck at the plate to help bolster his numbers. So it's hard to know really how reliable he actually is. So the Red Sox are in a tough spot. I mean, if Casas was injured but Yoshida was still around, then the Red Sox could move some people, have somebody fill in at first base, and then have Devers stay at third, and then Yoshida would have to play in the outfield a little bit and maybe have Rob Refsnyder shift into the infield and do a little bit of moving around so that they wouldn't have to acquire guys like Garrett Cooper and Dom Smith. So that's why it all has a effect on other things related to this team, because yes, Yoshida doesn't play first base, so you might be saying, what does he have anything to do with this? But it's all a chain reaction of if one person gets injured, it affects everything else in some capacity. So the Red Sox are just very much not in a great spot, losing Casas and Yoshida when they both were starting to hit well. So when it comes to Yoshida and his return, we'll keep an eye on the situation and see if he gets any more positive updates soon. But for right now, there's nothing at all being done. He's just resting, allowing himself to recover, and Alex Cora won't even go back and have the Red Sox evaluate the situation again until more time has passed and it's been a few more weeks. Then they'll look at where he's at and if he's even okay to remotely start moving around and start baseball activities again. So unfortunately, he'll be missing more time at this point, likely than Casas. When he returns at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it might be July, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later. Still hard to know with him because of the fact that the Red Sox haven't really given much of an update other than not needing surgery. So the not needing surgery helps us to feel confident that he'll be able to play at some point this season again. It's just a matter of when. Coming up next, though, I do have another surprisingly good update on a pitcher that's really going to help bolster this rotation when he comes back. So that's coming up. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel is a great way to make a lot of money and bet on a ton of different sports. Believe me, my fiance does it every day. He has different bets going on basketball playoffs, baseball now with it being in the middle of the season. So he's making all kinds of money, and that could absolutely be you too if you check out FanDuel today. You should also subscribe to Locked On Red Sox. You should also subscribe to Locked On Sports today, as we as a network have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is a great way for you to make sure you're staying caught up in all things going on in sports. And we will make sure that no matter what time zone you're in, you always have some content that you're taking in. So subscribe to that today. Garrett Whitlock has certainly been missed on this Boston Red Sox team, along with several other starting pitchers who were injured and have finally returned. And the timeline is looking pretty positive for Garrett Whitlock, too. So he began his road back to Boston this week, and he seems to be on the right track to rejoin the team actually this month. The right-hander essentially was placed on the injured list last month due to a left oblique strain he suffered during his most recent start against the Guardians. He recorded a 1.96 ERA with 17 strikeouts and 18 and a third innings before his IL stint. On Wednesday, though, he started for AAA Worcester in its matchup against the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders at Polar Park. He did really well. He gave up 0 runs on 2 hits in 4 2/3 innings. He also recorded 5 strikeouts and 1 walk. He was in a groove with a 66% strike rate, which prompted his rehab assignment to go into the 5th inning. Garrett Whitlock commented on it and said, Woo Sox manager Chad Tracy knows me well enough by now that as I was coming in, he was like, good job, you're in the 5th. Everything felt good, and again, just kind of my view of things, everything is moving in the right way. Obviously, we'll take a look at it. From my end, we're happy with it. So he feels confident in his progress, and talked about how you always hate missing time if you're a player, and it'll be very nice for him to get back and help the big league team, basically saying he'll do whatever he can. Red Sox manager Alex Cora did tell reporters on Wednesday that Whitlock could be an option as early as next Monday against the Tampa Bay Rays. Boston will need to make a corresponding roster move when they do activate Whitlock from the IL, and when he returns to the active roster, it'll be even better for a pitching rotation that's already proven so far this year to have the best statistical numbers in Major League Baseball. So what better time than to bring back Whitlock, who has been a key portion of that rotation. So the only question then becomes, if Garrett Whitlock does come back next week, what is the corresponding roster move? And the most likely scenario to me seems to be that they would move Cooper Criswell back down to AAA. But it's hard for them to make that choice because he's been pitching well too. He has a 2.10 ERA right now. He's given up no more than 2 earned runs in a single start he's made this year. He's been absolutely lights out so far. The one thing I will say about Criswell, if he wants to be successful long-term and be able to maintain it, is he does have to get his fastball velocity up. His fastball velocity averages 89.1 right now, so he needs to increase that speed significantly if he wants to be successful down the road as a starter. But so far, he has been fantastic, and he has been really helping this Red Sox rotation to stay afloat when it could have been easy to throw it in the towel and say, this team has no chance, this rotation has no chance, and he's been somebody who's been a positive shining light for this team so far for sure. So what do the Red Sox do? Do they keep him in the rotation and maybe when Whitlock comes back, they have him start in the bullpen and see how things go, and then if he's pitching really well out of the pen and they want him to start again, then they put him back in the rotation? Because to me personally, I've always liked Whitlock out of the pen. And at least if they bring him up and start him in the bullpen, it'll help him ease back into it, for one, so he's not throwing as many pitches each time he's out there as he would if he was starting. And for two, it gives the Red Sox that cushion of if he is pitching very well, he could go back into the rotation. But Cooper Criswell is pitching really well right now. So is the question, do they make another surprise move like when they sent Winkowski back down to AAA when they activated Brian Bayo again? Or do they find a different way so that they can keep both of those guys on the current active pitching staff? Because I feel badly for Criswell. I mean, the guy's pitching his heart out, and there's a good chance that he's the one who gets moved because of logistically what makes sense. I personally would maybe move somebody else from the bullpen because Whitlock has the bullpen experience, so he is used to having to pitch in those high leverage situations in relief, 1 or 2 innings, and it's an easy way to just insert him into that pitcher spot if they send somebody down to AAA that's currently in the pen. And then there's not as much reshuffling and moving around. And then you let Criswell stay in the rotation. And then if he starts to struggle, then you bring Whitlock back into the rotation and see how things go from there. So there's definitely some decisions that have to be made from the Red Sox perspective, but definitely nobody's going to sit here and say they're disappointed about Garrett Whitlock coming back soon. I'm definitely not. And the fact that all of these players have positive updates on their injuries right now, except maybe Yoshida, you could consider the fact that he doesn't need surgery to be super positive, but his timetable doesn't necessarily look the same. But Garrett Whitlock and Triston Casas are both such important members of this Red Sox team. And this team just had so many injuries, and they're still able to keep themselves, like I said, afloat and trying to compete with other teams. So now we're looking at a whole different outlook if this team starts getting healthy. I've continued to say we just need to get our guys back, because once we get our guys back, then we can perform, and then we could feel like we have just as much of a shot as anybody else to be able to really be in this thing and go for a playoff spot down the road, because you never know what could happen. This Red Sox team early on was looking good when all of these guys were healthy. So I definitely would like to see what the roster move ends up being when Garrett Whitlock does come back. Hopefully he doesn't have any more setbacks. I think the rehab assignment was absolutely huge for him to be able to get his reps in and pitch into the 5th inning so that he could gain that confidence back that he needs to really be in the rotation, because if he comes back into the rotation, the Red Sox are going to need him to eat innings. And overall this season, they've been pretty effective in terms of the starting pitchers and how deep they're going into games. They're trying to get the pitchers through 5 innings the majority of the time, which is a fantastic approach, and for the most part, that's been working. So that would be the expectation for Whitlock as well if he does come back into the rotation when he comes back. But I do like what he has. His stuff is great, and he definitely is a pitcher that has the capability to be successful either out of the rotation or the bullpen. It's just a matter of what makes sense at the time and where they put him. But Cooper Criswell has certainly been a surprise. I was excited to see what he could do, but didn't expect him to be this good. And it's been absolutely huge for the Red Sox in terms of being a game changer. So hopefully at the end of the day, this Red Sox team is able to gain some positive vibes in the clubhouse now that their guys are starting to come back and return to a team that just wants so badly to win and wants to prove people wrong. So if you add two very hardworking guys in Triston Casas and Garrett Whitlock back into the swing of things, that would be great, and it would give the Red Sox a much better chance to win some of these tough games against tougher opponents down the road. I kept saying during that Braves series, the 2-game set, that I really wished that Casas was there because they really could have used his bat. And if they had his bat, they might have pulled off a split, at least in that series. So hopefully these guys stay on track with the timetables that we've been given. Lots of positive news coming out of the Red Sox injured list. So hopefully things turn around for the Red Sox and they can start to be a very competitive team. We're not just talking about an average team that is staying afloat and pulling the weight until their primary guys come back. So, as always, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.